So, what Luis Fernando, Hollywood trade writer here, analysis of film overall, what he is saying is that's it. Superman trailer is the biggest 24-hour debut for a DC trailer on a single YouTube channel since COVID, hitting 22.6 million views on DC's official YouTube channel alone, where it's the most well-received with almost 1 million likes in a day. From X, aka Twitter, 34.6 million views just from James Gunn, Warner Brothers, Superman official accounts alone. With just those 3 X accounts combined, with just DC's YouTube channel, it has hit 57.2 million in 24 hours. Biggest debut of a Warner Brothers trailer considering the same limited sample metrics. Obviously, the absolute numbers that Warner Brothers might share soon when considering views from all accounts and channels all over the world will be much higher, and very likely an all-time record for a DC release. Let's hope Warner Brothers releases their original global scan figure. One thing is for certain, the interest is there, and the hype level seems comparable to early days of the gone DCEU. Now comes the hard work, keeping the hype levels this high for 7 months, and keep positive momentum for the film until pre-sales starts. I wouldn't like to be in DC Studios' marketing team's skin, but if they manage to pull this one off, it's gonna be the reason enough for a big bonus over there. Okay, so I will just put it out there kind of immediately that Mr. Fernando here is, I think, a little bit more apt to read these as very positive. I think the spin here is a little bit positive. I think the numbers that he's talking about are accurate. I guess my question is, though, is this really good? You know? And like when you see 22.6 million views on DC's official YouTube channel in 24 hours, like, is that really good? You know, we've looked at some of the viewer counts for some of the Marvel trailers. We've looked at some of the view counts for other DC trailers. And like, for instance, like this trailer thing is so confusing to me. You know, like the Flash trailers did, I think, like 21, maybe, 27 million overall, right? Like those were massive trailers, the Flash trailers when you first saw the Flash. But we all know what happened with that movie, right? So the trailer itself does not just equal a path forward for success. Obviously, the controversy that surrounded the Flash played a huge role into that. But, I mean, they had Gunn saying it was the best movie they ever saw. They had Tom Cruise saying it was the best movie they ever saw. And ultimately, fans completely rejected that movie, right? So it's kind of hard to say how this actually works. I will say that this is on par with some of the lesser popular trailers at Marvel Studios. So the last Thunderbolts trailer, which I thought was absolutely incredible, that trailer is sitting at about 17 million views from about a month ago. Now, I don't know. I mean, like, what do you think? What do you think about the fact that a Thunderbolts first look trailer, which technically followed up a Thunderbolts trailer from about a month prior, did only 5 less million views? So far, we'll see. Superman could tick up, but like then the Superman trailer. I guess the question is like, do you think Warner Brothers is actually happy looking at 22.6 million views in 24 hours on the YouTube channel? Like, do you really think they're happy about that? I don't really know, man. Like, I don't really think so. And within the analysis that I did, here's the way I would say it. I think considering all of the issues with Warner Brothers and all of the issues with DC, this maybe is the best that they could have hoped for. Like, don't get it twisted. This is better than a lot of stuff that they have done. Luis here says pre-COVID for sure. I mean, brother, we've been on a pretty bad tailspin when it comes to DC, all of those projects, like it's been pretty terrible, right? So without a doubt, this is good as far as a trend because it's way more coverage and exposure than DC has currently had, right? But I will also be real. You compare this to a lot of the Marvel stuff. You compare this to stuff like even Godzilla vs. Kong, Jurassic stuff. Like, brother, these ain't great numbers. Like, I'm going to be real. This thing was, I think, trending at like number 15 this morning. I mean, if this was like a big Marvel movie, it'd be at number 1 for like days, you know? So that just shows, and I think a couple of things are happening here. I think this shows, number one, just how crazy strong the Marvel brand is. I know that some of you guys like hate it because I'm obviously a Marvel fan, and I simp for Kevin Feige and all that. But brother, like, numbers don't lie. Like, that brand has changed pop culture, and it has certainly changed how the public responds to these superhero things. Like, Marvel movies are almost their own genre. A genre that has the attention of so many normies out there. So many normies out there, right? I saw people comparing yesterday the first 24 hours of the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer. And of course, the 24-hour Spider-Man No Way Home stuff is way bigger than the Superman stuff by like 20, 30, 40%. But I don't know that that's a fair comparison. I mean, first of all, it's Marvel. Second of all, it's Spider-Man. Third of all, it's the rumors of 3 different franchises all coming together. So Spider-Man No Way Home is just doing stuff that this Superman movie could literally never do. This movie's not going to be able to do this. It's not going to have the support of other franchises. It's not going to have the support of brand strength and normie mass appeal in the same way that Marvel does. So the first kind of takeaway of these numbers is like, wow, Marvel's just on another level. And you should understand that. If you want to be intellectually honest, you have to understand that. They're on another level. They have done things within pop culture that have literally changed the zeitgeist. Changed the zeitgeist. The other part of this is, though, that when you take that into consideration, I do think these are good numbers for Superman. I mean, let's be real. DC has a horrible brand right now. That's part of the reason why James Gunn got the job. Shit was bad, man. Real bad. Real bad. You know what I mean? And I think considering where they are at and how normies feel about it, I think these are good numbers. I think the other thing that's interesting here is Superman himself is not the most like mass appeal character. Even within comics, a lot of people have just looked past Superman for a long time. There have been moments where Superman had incredible appeal and was doing some really interesting stuff. Most of the time on the heels of brilliant writers that were just delivering. Basically, they just dug deep and delivered stories that were so epic because they wanted the public at large to share how they felt about the character. And that stuff worked. It translated, right? But for the most part, Superman, I mean, he doesn't even sell the same as Batman. Not even close. And I don't think he's considered a cool character by a lot of just normies in pop culture. So I think, the story here with the trailer performance, like, I would say this is a W for DC, but it's a W that also puts on full display why so many of their L's over the last 10 years have kind of caught up with them, and why Gunn truly does have an uphill battle if he wants this thing to even be as big as Man of Steel, frankly. Now, let's talk about how people feel about the trailer, right? Because there were all sorts of polls. I did some polls. IGN did a poll. like all kinds of polls, all kind of people gathering information yesterday. From what I have seen, just averaging out all of these results and looking at it, it's something like a 60-40 or a 65-35% split, where about 60 to 65% of the people like what they're seeing. It's probably bifurcated between like likes it and then really likes it, but ultimately those are still people on the positive side of the spectrum. I would say it's like a 60 to 65% of people over there, 35 to 40% of people not liking it. That is as accurate and as honest as I can be what I am seeing out there. Okay? So you consider the footprint, you consider the impressions, you consider how big the trailer was, and then you basically cut about 35% of that kind of out of it because, let's be real, there's a lot of normies that just aren't feeling it and probably won't go check it out in the theaters. I unfortunately do think behind closed doors, Warner Brothers is probably a little disappointed in what happened yesterday. I don't think they're going to admit it. I don't think they're going to signal it. But I do think quietly behind closed doors, they are probably slightly disappointed in the reaction and the reach for the Superman picture. That's what I think. And I think you will likely see some adjustments and some changes to try to make that problem a little bit better. They are doing some reshoots for the movie. They've had screenings. They recut this trailer a bunch to try to get it to be as good as possible. So I think you might see some changes, some adjustments, some tweaking. At the end of the day, like, yes, James Gunn has massive say in this as the co-president of the studio, the director, all of that. But I think obviously Warner Brothers knows what is at stake as well. That is why they put pressure on him to change the trailer. And I think that pressure will continue. Had this trailer come out and done, 30, 40% more views, if you saw more like a 80 to 90% approval of the trailer, they might have just let this dude cook. But my personal feelings, and this is just speculation, my personal feelings is after the data comes in, after they're really done sitting down looking at this, they might feel okay, but I think slightly disappointed. And I think they understand that there is an uphill battle to get this thing to really perform next year. You should remember that the competition this Superman movie is facing is stiff. I'm talking blue chew stiff. You've got the dinosaur movie with Scarlett Johansson kind of right before it. 2 weeks later, you've got the Fantastic Four. That's stiff competition. So we'll just see. But that's my analysis of kind of like what I saw from the viewership, how I feel the trailer performed, and how I think fans are feeling about it.